Hello, this is Belligerent34. If you're watching this, if you could hit that notifications button, the like button, and make sure to subscribe, greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a raid leader, and some of the problems and issues with it, maybe how to fix them. And the first thing is, it just seems like a lot of people want to be a raid leader. There's a lot of stuff to do with. People would rather join somebody and play. But there's the problem, right? Because you still need someone to know what they're doing in order for you to join on them. So I'd like to show you guys some just a little bit tips, maybe just some ideas to try and help with that issue. The first thing is, if you want to learn how to lead raids, you gotta know how to start a raid. So there's a couple different ways to do it. You can open up your map, right? And you can physically move your cursor to, the airport for Dark Hours, or the Foundry for Iron Horse. And when you get to either one of them, right, triangle opens up the raid menu. Pick your raid, push X. Then even in this menu, you could do Dark Hours or Iron Horse. Make sure it's on normal, and push and hold X to create a raid. Right? Seems pretty easy enough. Well, here's the hard part, right? Trying to find 7 other people to raid with. So there's a lot of ways you can go about doing that. A lot of Discords out there nowadays, Facebook groups, things like that, and find people, add them to your friends, and then click invite to raid. So that's seems to be like the hardest part of starting a raid. Oops.
Inventory.
And then it seems like the more apt you are to just kind of get things going, the more people will join. Now, second part, right? Your players, your team. What do you do? How do you know who goes where? Here's some things I've kind of learned, right? There's a couple different ways to do it, especially if you're starting out new. You can, when you get to the beach in Dark Hours, and just kind of take a quick glance at people's builds. I personally don't pay attention to their SHD levels. 1,000 is a pretty good benchmark, but I've come across some people that are really good players and they're low level. And then I've come across people that are really high level and they were just total, a-holes. So I don't put much stock into that number. If a person's willing to listen, that's what really matters to me. And I just tell people for Dark Hours, if you're not too caught up in builds, I just tell them it'd take a little bit longer. But if they want to put the time in, farm the builds, they'll get through it quicker. They might have a more enjoyable experience. It's all about how you frame things when you're talking to people. But I would like to hear from you guys. If you have any comments to add, feel free. Good experiences, bad experiences. Maybe things that you remember, wish people would have done, or wish people would have told you when you were starting out. But just going to share some tips about Dark Hours, right? So there's a couple things that you absolutely have to have in order to make this a lot easier for you. First boss, Boomer. You need to have 2 people that know how to kite them. And there's a number of different ways to set the builds up, and then just having a good knowledge of the buffs and the mechanics, that'll come just with doing it. You'll learn the doors they come out of. You'll learn pretty much when they come out of. You'll learn when the computers come up. And then putting people in the right spots, they'll just start, coming up naturally. But this game has been pretty old. A lot of people already understand or have basic ideas of it. So I try to just tell people, fill in where you're comfortable and we'll figure out the rest. And if people want to try new positions, you just ask that everyone be patient. You explain to them up front. There's not a lot of experience here, or if you do have a lot of experience, it could be a good time for those experienced guys to try something different. right? So the two kiters and boomer is a must. Now when you get to the triplets, there's a number of different ways to do it. The strategies are really going to come down to the raid leader, whoever wants to lead it. But just because that person wears the crown on the raid, and the symbol, doesn't always mean that they have to be the one calling the shots. They're more like an organizer, but a lot of people just kind of put that on them. So there's a lot of stuff for people to do. Try to make it easy on them. Hey, I can do this. I'd offer to do that. A lot of people, when things get asked, it's like crickets. Not a lot of communication, because either they're embarrassed or fearful they're going to get yelled at or belittled. Make it clear to them. It's not what you're about, right? And more people be going, all right, I'll give it a shot. Everyone's afraid to fail, but everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. And then when you get to the dogs, Buddy and Lucy, once again, there's a number of different strategies. It depends on your group, the firepower you got, and sometimes your strategy has to compensate for any weaknesses you might have, But if you got a group that's solid, you could try something different. You might discover something. Don't be afraid to try new things. This game has been so stagnant for a long time. People just get so used to running the same things. They're like on autopilot. They're not even thinking, and who knows what you might discover if you're brave enough to try something different. But on Razorback, at the last boss, the only main thing you really have to have is a jammer. So, and there's a couple different setups for that. And if people don't want to do it, can offer to teach them, and the rest is just killing shit. So Dark Hours is pretty easy in that aspect, setting things up, right? So you need 2 kiters for boomer, a lot of DPS. You need a jammer for Razorback, and some positions can use things like healers, maybe even a little bit of tanks, but not really necessary in Dark Hours. That's the easy part. The rest is when things are going wrong. Those little details. Those will just come with experience. But like I said, the more important thing is basically how you treat people. If you're going to yell at them and make them feel like they're super tiny, you're probably not going to get a lot out of them. Encouragement, trying to keep things as positive as possible, right? And just, don't be afraid to ask for feedback, because sometimes you're going to get at a point where you're going to get frustrated too. And be like, what, I don't know what else we can do, guys. I'm open to suggestions. And maybe somebody might have a really good idea. And if you're not making it, it's not going to hurt to try. Right, so that's for Dark Hours. Now for Iron Horse. There's a lot of stuff in Iron Horse. It is definitely a much more complicated fight. I would do your homework before you decide to try and lead those raids, and make sure you have a little bit better than basic understanding, because there's a lot of builds that are required, and a lot of different ways to make those builds happen. But the basic is you're going to have a healer pretty much from start to finish. There are certain positions where you'll need like hazard tanks, 100% hazard, and then, like I said, normal DPS builds work. That raid can be about buffs and debuffs. You can designate people for Coyotes masks or tardigrade. Really, it's up to you. And then at the very end, there's a lot of different strategies. A lot of people do a Faraday strat, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a way to kind of speed things up, skip the whole bullets and rockets, and you pretty much live in the electrified field and stay at the sandbags. But there's ways you have to set it up. You need tacticians. You need a good healer. You need a good tank. A lot of coordination in Iron Horse, like who's staggering Morozova, who's getting the keys, a lot of stuff. So that raid is definitely just maybe a little more complicated in the sense of organizing things. But once you get people into their roles, they know what's going on. It's really not too bad. Each raid has their own individual challenges, and usually just finding the right people to fill the right spots and let them play to their strengths, that could probably be the best way to be an effective raid leader. I've put out different videos, walkthroughs on both raids, talk about the builds a little bit longer. So if you're interested in those, let me know. I can get you right to them. If you would actually like me to try to like personally help you with stuff, that's what I've been doing on this game. I have my own chat group, and I'd be more than happy to help anybody. That's pretty much why I started out doing all this stuff, because let's face it, this game, it's been pretty boring, pretty stagnant. And all the new content, it's not really that special. Here's a new gun, here's a new gear set, here's a new manhunt. That's what it's been like for a while. No new raids, no new maps. And let's face it, I know a lot of us would pretty much kill for that at the point right now. But who knows what Massive and Ubisoft are doing. But anyway, if this video helped, like I said, feel free to like, subscribe, hit that notification button. And you guys take care. Let me know if, reach out to me if you need anything. I'll be more than happy to help. Thanks a lot.